Well, hello, welcome everybody to Austin, Texas, the Jungle Scout studio today. I'm Brandon Baston. I'm a senior enterprise onboarding and training specialist with Jungle Scout for our Cobalt platform. And I'm really excited today that we're joined by John from Pik Fu. If I could speak today, my brain and mouth are on the same page. I'm gonna let John introduce himself because he'll apparently be way better at it than I am. So John, tell us a bit about who you are and why we should listen to what you have to say today.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome, Cowpoke. I don't speak like that. I'm just kidding. I'm just in Texas for the week. But yes, my name is John Aspinall. I'm a brand evangelist here at Pik Fu. And we are a consumer research insight tool that you need to be using over and over and over again. And we're going to show you exactly why, how it pairs really, really well with the data in Jungle Scout.
Awesome. Yeah, we're really excited to dive in. So what we're going to do today, just to kind of give you an idea how we're going to walk into this, is we're going to start with some Jungle Scout data, give us a bit of direction and some insight on where we want to do a deeper dive. And then we're going to move over into Pik Fu and John. We're going to break down some listings and talk about how we would make some improvements, because our focus today is going to be on better share of voice to lead to a better click-through rate, better conversion rate. John says it all the time about the click. What's your quote all the time?
It all starts with the click.
All starts with the click.
I mean, when have you shopped and you haven't clicked?
Exactly. So
no, I'm actually asking, when have you shopped and it's never clicked? Has it ever just appeared in the mail? You have to have click on.
Well, I have kids, and they have access to my Amazon account.
Well, they've
so
clicked.
Honestly, stuff does just show up in the mail sometimes. But yeah, it always starts with the click. And we always talk about if you're not on the page to have any of that share of voice, you're never going to get the click. So let's talk about what that looks like. So we're going to start with Jungle Scout's Cobalt data. So for context, Jungle Scout has a brand, Jungle Creations, and we sell washable puppy pee pads, or pee pads for dogs. And so because of that, we track a number of relevant keywords that are really important to that product vertical and some of our advertising and what we're doing. So what I did is I took our tracked keywords and I built a dashboard to understand what was happening. So in my first widget here, I have some of the top keywords that are very relevant for the product group we're looking at. And if I look at this just in the last 90 days from a search volume perspective, washable pee pads for dogs, winter chicken dinner. Over 240, almost 250,000 searches in the last 90 days.
The pee business is a booming?
It's a booming. And apparently it's unending because it's just a non-stop kind of thing. So 250,000 searches heavily leaned on by consumers. That's a really good place to start. So I took it a little bit deeper dive and I went into some other tools, and I grabbed a screen capture of this from our shelf intelligence tool, but I can jump over to it to look at on puppy pee pads, or on washable pee pads for dogs, I should say, as the keyword. Just in the last week, what did the share of voice look like for organic positioning? So I filtered down to organic positioning, and I can see by brand who's sitting on the page and how much they own from a value perspective. So let's think top of search down. So who's owning the eye of the consumer right when you land on the page and as you scroll down at a brand perspective. And that's really good and insightful to know just who I'm competing with and who else is in the space. Jump back over to my dashboard. I took that and I took it a step farther, and I wanted to know on washable pee pads for dogs, what are the top ASINs from the organic perspective? So who is owning those top spots? Who is top of search on the organic side of things? I can see the relevant brand information again, plus the ASINs, product title, and then a share over here, a value. So this top product owns just over 15% of the page from a value perspective. So it gives me something to target into, right? They're doing it well, they're doing it right, they're in the position I want to be in. And if I'm one of these other ASINs, what can I do to do what they're doing maybe a little better? And this is where Pik Fu comes in, because we can start to break it down and analyze it. So Jungle Scout's given us some direction. It's given us some ASINs to start with, and John's going to walk us through this very first top ASIN against one of the other ASINs on the page. And we're going to use Pik Fu to break this down, do some A/B testing, and help get some better direction on what we can do to make our share of voice better if we are this other product. So John, I'm going to kick it over to you. We're going to jump into Pik Fu, and we're going to run off with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be ABC. Always be
closing.
It's evolved. It's no longer ABC. It's always be testing.
Always be testing.
So we ran the myriad. Is it myriad? Myriad.
I've heard it both ways.
Bunch of different tests, and the way that you would structure them, right? So what we did here on the first one is we did a SERP click test. So basically, here's the product that we're talking about, and we took a SERP snapshot and we ran a click test. So we're basically telling people, if you were shopping on Amazon, which image would compel you to click to buy? So they're clicking with one click over here to showcase where. And then we can highlight and understand exactly, okay, these are 6 clicks. What did people exactly say? I like the design, the puppy on the package. The reason I'd be most compelled to click is because it says this is overall pick. So you can see how these badges on Amazon really matter for a lot of these things because they look high quality for a great price. So you can see we kept the price, we kept the reviews, we kept a lot of swaying kind of information and details in this, but you're able to get those insights. And now one thing, Brandon, if you notice, right, when you highlight over here, it's saying age range, personal income range, gender identity, race, prime member, pet dog owner, whatever it is. So you understand who you're getting the feedback from. So you don't want feedback from just anyone. You want specifically from your ICP, your demographic, your avatar, your jam, whatever word you want to call it, the people that you actually need to hear from that are going to buy your product, right? So from there, we went to this. So we picked, okay, these two were getting the most amount of clicks from the SERP test. So we said, okay, the next test we're going to do is an A/B test. So if you're shopping on Amazon, which product do you click on and why? So this one was the winner, but it wasn't a landslide.
No, it's pretty split down the middle. I mean, it's pretty close.
Yeah, and this is good for both brands in this case because, you know, it wasn't one way this way, one way the other. So this brand here can take some context from this one and why they were chosen and vice versa with this one. So they can understand, okay, so if you go down here, they like it because of the paisley design. Well, that's not something you're able to change per se, maybe not on this iteration. It's clear to me and the dog presence makes it more attractive. So people like that there's a full-figured dog and not a dog that looks like he has allergies and sneezing behind something over here.
Looks like he's trying to peek out over the top of the blanket, the pee pad, yeah.
I don't know. He looks like everyone ran away from the litter and left him behind, so he's a little confused.
Well, the other dog, though, looks happy, smiling, very energetic. I figure it's a yappy dog, but, you know, no judging.
Yeah, so there's a lot of data that you're getting from this, whether it's, you know, Jungle Scout, whether that's Pik Fu. You always have to make data-driven decisions, and that's what we're doing here. So we went from, you know, test 1 to test 2, and now how we're doing this. So now we're affecting this one, right? So how can we make this brand better for this brand owner? So we did one different version. So we kept the original version here, and we changed things up a little bit. So we took the context from why we lost in the previous test. People were saying, I like how you can see the whole entire pad there. So we just put the whole entire pad there. And then we removed washable training pads here. We moved it up here so we can take that sad little sneezy dog, we're going to call him Sneezy for the rest of this bit, Sneezy back here and put him in front of Happy. So Happy's better than Sneezy. So then what we did, we ran it against the same demographic, Amazon Prime subscribers that are pet owners, and landslide. Pretty much a landslide, 26 to 4. Right?
Yeah, very, very different outcome for sure. Obviously, you know, very similar to begin with, but what makes the differences vastly stand out when people look at it, obviously. And if you go to the comments, they're going to reinforce exactly what you were saying about, I like the dog. I like how I can see the entire pad.
But the big thing too is if you notice, I omitted their brand name. Most folks on Amazon, they buy, especially with something that's utilitarian thing that they need it, they got to have it. No one has ever, and I have a friend in this space, so we're not going to say her name.
Sure.
That's not this person. But no one's ever saying, oh my God, I must buy Pet. I must buy it because I'm brand loyal to them. They would like it to be that way.
Sure.
But in actuality, people are shopping based on their need, their price, the value prop, and what's being merchandised and shown in front of them. So I removed from this iteration the brand name, and you could see no one even
pointed it out.
They were like, "Oh my God, this is not a brand name. I want to choose. I'd rather the brand name versus the non-brand name."
Yeah, a conversation I get into a lot of times when I'm working with enterprise level clients that come from a really traditional brick and mortar background. Right? They have that mentality, these are my known competitors and this is my customer base, and brand loyalty is very different from the storefront versus Amazon for all those reasons that you said. And in the storefront, that Pet logo might be recognizable. Maybe you see that branded, you know, you're in a box store and that's the end cap of the aisle and you got all that.
Yeah.
That's a very different consumer group at the time. That's a different buying model. There's a lot of different variables, right? Online, brand loyalty does not follow the consumer like it does unless you're, you know, there are certain brands. We were talking about the MacBook versus like a Surface Pro kind of conversation earlier. But in most cases,
it's not even a competition.
Not even competition, as we're all using our MacBooks here. But in a lot of times, though, as a brand, that's your baby, right? It's hard to give up on that logoing that you're living and dying by. And that's great for other marketing initiatives. But on Amazon, meet the consumer where they are, present yourself in the way that makes the best sense to get the click and the conversion. Hang your ego at the door.
Yeah. But you have to take like your creative director and yourself and the CEO and the marketing person out of the equation. Because a lot of times, especially creative directors, they'll be optimizing for your website, optimizing for within your brand guidelines, and no, we have to have this here. They're not typically optimizing for conversion and optimizing for sales. And many people have written articles about how you can't take your website and just copy and paste it onto Amazon. It's never going to work.
Right.
Unfortunately, even big brands, I was showing the guys here some examples this morning of Colgate. Colgate does these kind of tactics, right? With the main hero image, with a box that you're never going to get that shouts out 6-pack. There's billion-dollar companies that are doing this, right?
Yeah.
So if they're doing it, you have to be keeping up with the Joneses and do it yourself.
Absolutely. And like we talked about at the very beginning, right? If someone's doing this and they're winning at doing it, I want to understand why and how they're doing it, because maybe I can do it better, or I have a better way or a more efficient approach, or I can have a better ROI with small adjustments using them as a model, right?
Yeah.
They've created a great wheel. I don't need to build a wheel. I just need to build a better wheel.
Ka-ching. Ka-ching, as the kids say.
Ka-ching, yeah.
Ka-ching. Then what we did is we took our updated version that beat the old, don't close that, the updated version. I almost closed my tab there.
That's right, there's a restore one.
I don't want to find that. I like to be very smooth.
I got you.
So we took the modified version and we kind of just pasted it over the SERP to see, okay, our modified version, how is that going to stand out on the SERP, right? And it did pretty good, right? So remember, we were comparing this one versus this one. So technically, we took a lot of market share away from this one because previously, if you notice over here, this one got a lot more dots. And if we go over here, it doesn't have a lot of dots.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same SERP, right? This guy over here, we noticed, is getting a lot of attention. So on this one, he didn't get a lot of attention, but he started to get a lot more attention over here. And what we noticed when we drilled down in Pik Fu and we highlighted all this good feedback, we noticed that the price suitable for little dogs, the price that was offered, sheet price, it was very, very price conscious.
I think if we look at this as well too, because we were talking about the click pattern. On the first one, people tend to click the image right in the middle of the training pads. But if you notice on this one, the clicks tend to go farther down, which kind of leads me to believe is because by the time we're getting to the price point, then we're making a click. And our cursor is most likely following our eye at this point, which is also insightful. And, talked about that. Variables here, right? The badges, the price points. And so what's our focus, right? The SERP is a great place to start, but we're really trying to focus on the image. So would we maybe want to do another iteration of this where we remove the text and we just focus on the images? Because that's what we're really trying to understand at this point, right? We're not talking price, we're not talking other features. We're just talking in an image perspective for this part of the conversation.
Well, you want to go back to it, right? And we have another test here. But I think it's important to know when someone's saying, okay, it's $7.99 price point, what are they willing to give up for that $7.99 price point? And then that's what we want to focus on and why ours is a higher price point. Because we're never going to get the people that want to spend $7.99. They're always going to spend $7.99. I know who you are. You're watching this. You're only going to spend $7.99. You're not going to spend $8.99. We get it. You're not the ones we're talking to right now. But the people that want to spend a little bit more and where they're in between those price points, we have to show them exactly why we're more expensive. Whether that's talking about the premium materials, talking about the value prop, talking about the size, talking about, tapping into the pain of like owning a puppy. And, a lot of it gets further into the PDP, the product detail page, when we're talking about the us versus them and all those other kind of things. But you really have to cram all that you can in the main hero image and make it compelling and really work with the space that you have. So the next one, the kind of final one we did here is we kind of did what you said. We omitted the titles, we omitted the price points, we omitted the coupons, and we really just wanted to see, based on raw photos alone from the top level of the SERP page, not the whole SERP, who is winning. And I think we have some good context here. So right now, this one that we edited has 10 clicks. This one over here has 6. Yeah, so this is the winner. So based on, this one has 6. So if we remove the price, specifically the price from the equation and go based on just image and value prop from the image, we're winning with this one right here. But again, when you bake in the price point, everyone's gravitated towards cheap stuff. I mean, that's why everyone plug your ears if you're sensitive to ordering from China. Wish.com, Temu, all these sites are in business because people don't really care about quality versus price and quantity. And that's okay, but that might not be your customer and who you're targeting, especially at the $29 or $39 price point.
Sure.
We don't want their business. We want to target the premium customer that's going to enjoy the product and keep on using it and keep on referring and keep on buying.
Sure. And to a good point, we were talking about this from a pricing perspective. We're not in a race to be at the bottom. If that's not your game, fine. Don't try to be in that game. This is a utilitarian product, as you mentioned. So price is a factor, and there are going to be some folks that are just looking for, I just need a product that gets it done. I don't care.
Yeah.
Right? Give me the cheap one. Awesome. There will be other people that say, well, I want it, but I want something a little nicer. I want it to last a little longer, or maybe going to be using it for more of an extended period of time, whatever that is. But how do you differentiate, right?
Yeah.
And this kind of leads into what we were talking about. Beyond the hero image, you get the click, and now they're in your PDP. And now you have their attention for enough time to tell a compelling story, narrate why you're better, that us versus them mentality, or highlighting value props from a pain perspective. And we talked about this as pet owners, right? They eat your stuff, they go into the bathroom, they leave hair everywhere. There's all these pain points that as a pet owner you ignore, but there's still things you have to deal with. And so the PDP is going to give us the ability to drill into that quite a bit more because now we have you, right? On the SERP, we have your attention for a moment, right? It's all about, can I get your attention enough for you to pause and go, I want to look deeper and click into that. And then can I tell you a compelling enough story following your LinkedIn post to get you to add it to the cart?
Yeah.
And then make the purchase, because at this point it's out of my hands as the brand. I can't go on your laptop or your phone and hit that purchase button for you. You got to make that final call.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. We'll send him out there. He'll do it.
I'm willing to go.
He'll do Spirit Airlines all across America to find you and click on your stuff for you.
That's right. If you need a compelling live argument, just bring me.
To you.
Just bring me
You're
in.
laughing like we don't see you. We see you.
I'll be there. We'll talk it out, and we'll help you make that purchase decision.
You triggered me. You triggered me a little bit when you talked about the dog and chewing on things and that kind of stuff. And it made me think, when I buy stuff for dogs or kids, because I have both, but when you buy something cheap, you get cheap. It's like tattoos, right? It's like tattoos. Good work isn't cheap. Cheap work isn't good. So when you buy something for a pet, a baby, understand what you're paying for, right? You have the dog, you feed the dog, you take it for its shots, you make sure it's okay and it lives a great life. You probably give it really good food and healthy, you take it for walks. Why wouldn't you buy a premium product that it's going to be able to pee on and not tear up and ingest and get sick? People sometimes have to learn the hard way.
Sure.
And that's what the PDP is, to talk about the pain points. And that's where after the click, then it's really like it's a jab, and the right hook, where we're going to just really hit you with the pain points that you need to know. A lot of brands aren't really focusing on this.
Yeah, I think they're missing the boat with that. It's a huge opportunity because as consumers, we buy off of emotion and we buy off of feelings almost more than anything. Yes, we will do product research, and yes, we'll scan the page and we'll go to their product homepage. But at the end of the day, any salesperson will tell you, you buy off emotion and then you try to justify it with logic. When you touch on those pain points, that's touching people's emotions, and pets especially, since that's what we're talking about. That really ties closely to people, right? They love their pets. They call them their fur babies. People love their pets. That's an extended member of the family, and the amount of money that you'll put into your vet and all that stuff it's crazy. But to your point, why would you cheap out all of a sudden on one thing when you are focusing so much on these other areas?
So. I don't call them my fur babies.
Oh, I don't either. I have one.
I judge people who call them their fur babies. So if you call them fur babies,
silently judging.
Buy that $7.99 pee pad, if you will. But yeah, I think it's super important that you understand what people shop with their eyes, right? So no one's looking at titles on Amazon when they're shopping. They're looking at images first. Then they go to title for validation for what they're looking at to make sure what they're seeing is correct. And then they look at price. So it's like the Bermuda Triangle of shopping, right? It's image, it's title, it's price. It's image, it's title, it's price. So it always starts with the image. It always starts with the click, because you could have the best thing in the world, but if no one's clicking, no one's ever buying. Yeah, exactly. If you're invisible, they're never going to buy you. You have to get in front of them first, first and foremost. And first, that's on the search page, because you got to be where they're looking, and then you have to get them to click into your listing. It's a very easy dance when you break it down. It's really difficult to do it and execute it well, and that's why it's like a classical waltz. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, that's made that. I have no idea about. Is a classical waltz a thing? It's a 3 count, and I didn't even know that image, was a thing. Title,
price point.
Image, title, price point.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2,
1,
3.
2, 3.
There you go.
If you're looking for dance classes, feel free to email us here, and Brandon will give you a dance class. Tango, salsa, merengue, whatever helps you get better clicks.
Yeah, we even have a tap program for you old school folks. It's going to be amazing. All right, so let's talk about where we go with this as well. Some of the other things that we can do with Pik Fu, and then some of the things that we can do with Jungle Scout. So I talked about, we're kind of bookending this. So we started with some of the Jungle Scout data to give us some direction on washable pee pads for dogs, was relevant to our product, to our consumer group, and it gave us some really good information to start with. Got into Pik Fu, we're starting to do some testing because ABT, right? Always be testing to try to find the best actionable insight, all right? We're looking at different options right now. Images, different hero images, different blends on the page of text and different things to get the most value, and we're testing that out. Now we launch this new version. We've made it a choice, right? We've decided this A version was better, it got more response, it's getting better traction in the comments, it's leading the way we want to go. Well, now we come back to Jungle Scout. And now we track performance. And so we can take our integrated data and we can look at our dashboard we built. We've got our kind of where did we start tab I built. That's where we started. But then we can continue to track those trends. What's our search position? Which ASINs are on the page? Which brands are owning all of the various pieces of the SERP, right? So headline ads, sponsored products, organic positioning, video, because all of these pieces have different value at different times. And we're not even talking advertising, but that could be a whole separate conversation about which piece of the page you chase based upon what you're trying to accomplish as a brand.
Starts to get expensive.
Yeah, exactly.
We're talking money.
Talking money. So we'll stay with organic. We'll stay you know,
pockets.
Scrappy. But all these things can be tracked. In addition to that, we can also integrate your Amazon data. So in this case, here's our Seller Central data for our washable pee pads for dogs. So we can look at our actual performance week in and week out. So as we optimize our content from, you know, the Pik Fu suggestions and the A/B testing we've done, now we can track, did it move us in the right way? Did it move as much as we thought it would or forecasted that it might? Are we seeing other residual impact from this? Because let's say we optimize our listing, we do our image, and we're seeing more clicks, which is great. We're seeing better conversion. But as a side byproduct, what if it's also leading people to other products of ours? They go to our brand store, or they notice, well, you know what, I ordered this washable pee pad and I really liked it. What other products does this brand sell? Because I still have a dog and they might have some other stuff. And so we've got our integrated data sets, and I can see, are my other adjacent products, if I have other products in the dog or puppy space in this case, are they seeing a bump as well? Or how could I lean into that a bit more? So all this data is available.
But you know, brand story modules, they're not important. You know, having a brand story module on a listing, it doesn't do anything for you. It's a waste of money. I'm kidding. If you don't have a brand story module on your Amazon listing, this is free SEO, free upselling, free merchandising. Alt text. You can put alt text behind all of the images in your modules. I think you can put up to 19 modules in there. Even if you don't have a picture of your product, get a lifestyle picture of a dog. Don't get a picture of him peeing. Get a picture of a dog just running and put some alt text behind there. Here's a tip, hot tip. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hot tip. Use Spanish phrases in your alt text behind your images for commonly used words. So if we're talking about pee pads, urinados papados. That's not how you say pee pads in Spanish, but I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find the proper way to say it, and you're going to want to put that in there because that's how the second biggest language in the US would say that and search for it. You can't put those terms in your listing front-facing, but behind the alt text is indexable for SEO. That's a hot tip.
Oh, absolutely. So you can, you know, Spanish language or other languages for the area or region you're in.
Right? I got a little angry there for a second. I'm sorry.
No, you were definitely fired up
about this kind of stuff.
We were just messaging on LinkedIn about this actually. Jungle Scout put out a report, and one of the most indexed keywords was the Spanish version of that keyword for car care products.
See.
That's what we were talking about. We're down in Texas. That's definitely relevant to our geographical area for sure. Other large parts of the U.S., same thing. But why would we not tap into that, right? With the secondary language, and to John's point, it's not what we put front-facing because we're in the U.S. market and more of an English-dominant kind of search drive. However, why would we still not work to meet those other consumers and be visible where they're looking, when they're looking, in a product that's going to resonate with what they want to buy? So if you're not doing that, pause right now. Think through how can you do that. If you want some advice, hit John up.
Wait, hold on. Hot tip number two. Okay,
ready? I'm ready.
Since we're talking about alt text, you're already a silly goose and you don't have your brand story module set up, you're going to fix it right now. Spanish phrases, common typos and misspellings.
That was going to be my second one.
Did I steal your thunder?
You did. You stole my thunder. I was going to say, when you get in there and you type in chef when you meant to type in chief and you hit enter, and yeah, there you go.
I was going to say, if you're a silly goose or a silly geese or silly gooses, some people out there in the country might say gooses. You might see that and you might want to rank for that because they might be a silly geese and they might write silly gooses. I don't know what I'm saying at this point, but you know what I mean.
Another thing to think about with that as well too, right? Especially U.S. market. It's geographically is very large, right? Because you're from New York, you're down here visiting in Texas. We're talking about a lot of the differences, other than just temperature, which is super obvious. But food, we're talking about accents and different things. Even in the United States, right? We say in Texas, if you want to order a soft drink like a soda pop, you just ask for a Coke. It doesn't matter what it is. I'll take a Coke. And then the staff will say, okay, would you like a Dr. Pepper? Like, what would you like? Like what? And then you tell them. But in other parts, I'm from the Midwest. You may have seen Jake on video. He's also from the Midwest. They might say soda, or if you're farther north, they might say pop. That's more specific. But why would you not lean into that as alt text? Different ways people search for something.
Ohio is the Midwest. Ohio is not the Midwest. This is.
I don't know. Well, okay. Well,
guys, if you're watching this video, fact check your own stuff, and you be the judge. Because I don't think I think Ohio is like northeast-ish and stuff like that. If you're thinking Midwest, I think of like Oklahoma. That's the Midwest, right?
Oh, I would go with like Missouri and Nebraska.
Either way.
All right. So let's bring it back. All right, so we're tracking performance, and that's super important because we want to know how things are going off of the changes we've been making. And then we can take that a step farther with some of the other data for Cobalt because we can look at market share data. So in my market where these washable pee pads play, how does my brand sit in regards to performance against the other brands in the space? And are my changes and optimizations helping not only improve my actual sales, but are they improving my market performance? Because on the larger brands or even agency side that are managing these larger brands, we don't look at generally how did that product do today versus yesterday. It is how many market percentage points did we gain in the last quarter, or how much have we lost? And that could represent thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's where the focus is. And we want to be able to track those trends. So when we come back and continue to make adjustments, one of the things we talk about in Amazon is it is so fluid and it changes so fast.
Yeah.
What you did last week is going to be outdated by next week in some cases. And so it's a never-ending cycle. And you got to be able to keep your finger on the pulse of that to be able to flow between these different tools at different times to keep coming back and refreshing what you're doing, meeting the consumer as their drive changes, as how they search changes, as different world events shift how we do things.
It's like the song. Yeah. What have you done for me lately?
What have you done for me lately?
Dun,
wow.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's awesome. Final thing we can talk about here as well that I like to touch on with Jungle Scout is we talked a little bit about advertising just kind of in general, right? Start spending the money. But it is a really great thing to start thinking about when we start talking about context of what's our market share? What's our share of voice, right? What is our brand's market share of the search page? That's how I like to think of that, right? And what ASINs represent that. And then if we are advertising on that, where are we wasting ad dollars? Where are we efficient with our ad spend to get better performance and traction? And so one of the things we could look at in our case, we have a tab here for optimizing our low performing keywords and search terms. So from our integrated advertising data, we can see which of our accounts, or which of our campaigns, I should say, from our account, have an ACOS running above a certain threshold we've dictated. So I like to think of this as the where I'm wasting money in advertising tab, because all these ACOS are really, really high. And if I'm looking to optimize a strategy, this might be a great place to start because I already have a hit list of campaigns to drill into and to start doing research around.
What's a high ACOS?
You're not gonna like my answer.
It's a loaded question.
You're not gonna like my answer because it's gonna be it depends.
It's not an answer. It's a non-answer.
It's a non-answer. It's how I evade the question.
It's not an answer. I'll answer.
Go for it.
Depending the category that you're in, there's a disclaimer for my attorneys. 30% or less of an ACOS is generally a good number. For a tacos, 15% or less is generally a good number. Those are good numbers that you can go by. Yes, if you're in some categories that are $98 a click for top of search, it's going to be skewed. But understand, those are good guidelines to kind of direct your ship towards. If you're running right now and you think you're killing it on Amazon and you have a 95% tacos, please put down the mouse.
You're not killing it on Amazon.
Please call us, somebody. Call somebody and ask for help. But no, understand those are the numbers you want to kind of guide yourself towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind too, where's your product in its life cycle? Right? If it's a new product launch and you're just getting started, you're going to have to assume a higher ACOS because you're trying to drive it into market. But that's part of the launch strategy. But you have to know that the ACOS for a product that's been in market 2 months is different from a product that's well established and mature, that's been in for 3 years, that has consistent sales velocity, it's been sitting on the search page consistently for that time frame. Very different variables for the product.
Sophomore year,
yeah.
Is it a junior year? Did it maybe not do so well and stayed in junior year twice, like some kids I know from high school?
Yeah, so keep some of those variables in mind. John's suggestion's great benchmarks to start from, but you have to put some other context to that too, because if you launch a new product and expect to have an under 30% ACOS, it's going to be tough. You might let yourself down out of the gate. So you have to be realistic about what you can and cannot do. And then in some parts, as John mentioned too, the ACOS might be a little higher because of the way that the category moves or because of the product type or some of the other variables that the best you could hope to get for it is maybe 30%.
Supplements is very hard. If you have under 15% tacos on a supplement and you're doing solid business and you launched last month, call me. I want to know how you did that. Yeah. It's very hard.
We want to talk to you about how you did that, how you did that effectively, for sure. Well, John, any other thoughts around Pik Fu in general? I know we've talked a bit about, there's a really good synergy between Jungle Scout because we really focus on data. Yeah. And we can help you optimize from a data perspective. And it ties in what we said, data-driven decisions. Where do I look? Why is this happening and what is driving it in market? Yeah. And then how do I take action? And that's where Pik Fu slides in. Now there's executable actions. We can test, we can do iteration, and we can work through this and then bring it back to the data to see how are things changing.
We have a lot of slogans at Pik Fu, right? We have test before you invest. We have better click through with Pik Fu. Anything I could put on a shirt eventually, I'll put that. But it's super important to make data-driven decisions, whether it's product validation, iteration, sourcing, using Jungle Scout initially, then switching to Pik Fu, then going back up. You always want to use the data. You never want to guess. You don't want to go out on a ship set for the high seas and just be like, oh, I think I'm going somewhere. You're not as lucky as Christopher Columbus. Sure. I don't think so. Maybe Magellan. I don't know. All these guys they named GPSs after. I don't really know why. They didn't know where they were going either back then. Anyway, so testing with Pik Fu, you always want to be doing it. Always be testing A/B/T. Lots of different things. It's not just A or B.
Right.
It's the SERP, like we showed examples of. It's ranked. It's open-ended questions. It's multi-poll questions. It's your brand name, who you're targeting, who your demographic. You might think you know your demographic, but the data might show you differently. You might think as an inventor of a product, this is my demographic, this is my ICP, someone who is a pet owner that is a woman in her 50s and 60s. But based on your product and running Pik Fu polls and data and Jungle Scout data, you might find unravel the fact that your demographic is maybe men in their 30s that have larger dogs, not smaller dogs. That's how you have to tailor your message and tailor your ads and tailor your SEO and all that too. Because otherwise, if you get too much in your own head about what you think the brand is and not really what the brand is resonating with, the only kind of tacos you're going to have are probably from Taco Bell. They're not going to be that good if you kind of get out of that.
And if that's all you got here in Texas, you're in trouble.
I had Whataburger. I had Whataburger for the first time today. And
Yeah, Whataburger. There you go. I'm going to steal your ABT and I'm going to repurpose it for Cobalt. Always be tracking. To always be tracking your data. ABT. Write that down. Always be testing.
Get my attorney on the phone. Tracking. We don't do this. This is what we do. We fly me down to here to steal my stuff.
Coffee's for closers. That's
absolutely not. Yeah, I'm going to speak to the CEO of Jungle Scout here. I'm on hold. Typical.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for joining us to kind of walk through that. I know we didn't go as deep down some of those paths as we could because there's so many things to talk about. But be on the lookout. We're going to do more of these. We're definitely going to have some more content for you. John is always putting out great content, breaking down listings, giving you actionable insights. So if you haven't followed him on LinkedIn or you haven't connected with him, I don't know why you wouldn't, Go and check that guy out. Follow Jungle Scout. Come find me on LinkedIn as well. Happy to connect with you there. Also, super excited to walk forward with this. We love working with Pik Fu. Great platform, great relationship. Those guys are awesome. John, thank you so much for coming all the way down to Austin to hang out with us. So hopefully you're enjoying it.
It's hot. I just want everyone to understand as you're watching this video, you might think you see on television, wow, it's hot down there. It's hot. So do really well in your Amazon business that if you come to, Austin or Texas or anywhere down this area, that you just carry an air conditioner around with you. Just develop a portable air conditioner, like a really good one, like not one of those little cheap fans that blows water on your face. Nothing's more irritable than if you're hot and someone's blowing and spitting water at your face. Develop something innovative. Speak to Elon Musk. He'll work it out.
That's right. Tesla has, they're located down here in Austin now. We're not going to talk about the Cybertruck, but they crank them out over there close to the airport.
I'm getting Elon on the phone. This is ridiculous.
Oh, also, before we leave, stick around. We're going to be doing a live Q&A here shortly, and we'd love to answer your questions. So drop them in the chat. We'll get back to you in just a minute.
I think I saw them just move. Were you trying to move? Like we were literally about to do a Q&A, right? Please sit down.
Yeah.
Sit down.
You have enough time? Quick restroom break?
No.
They
should have the pee pads that we talked about earlier. You don't need a restroom break. You're not going to want to miss this. There probably won't be a replay. I may be lying about that, but you don't want to miss it. Stay here.
See you in a minute. Well, hey everyone, welcome back, or I should say welcome back for myself. You probably were already hanging out with us. I'm joined by John from Pik Fu. He's joining me from his remote location today, not down in Austin, but probably a lot cooler, nicer weather. John, good to see you again. How are things going where you are?
It is a lot cooler here in New York City, recovering. I know the magic of editing. You thought I was right there right after that brief break, but it's been a little bit, not too long, but recovering. But New York is going through a heat wave right now. Nothing like Texas. So when I said it was hot, it's hot, people. It's really hot.
Well, you're welcome to come back at any time. Maybe next time you come hang out with us in the fall. But while you were here, we were talking about a lot of share of voice tactics, things for the search engine results page, a lot of stuff that you folks just watched. So we would love to answer any questions that you have around these specific topics. For myself, around Jungle Scout, for John, around Pik Fu, obviously a combination of both. So drop your questions into the chat there for the live Q&A with us, and we'll be happy to dive in. Doesn't look like I have any questions coming through quite yet, but I'm sure that's just because everybody's furiously typing to catch up.
Just blasting away at the keyboards, if they have mechanical keyboards or if they have, I don't know what they have nowadays, but ask the questions, because not to kind of double down on the opportunity here, but did you just see Prime Day? Actually, the dates got released.
I did. I actually just saw that earlier today, this morning, sitting there drinking coffee, and I was reading up on that. So 16, 17, right?
It was 16th. It's 16th and 17th. Yeah, and it's I cannot wait to get 11% off of a Kindle, because I'm very excited over. I'm kidding, but I'm so very much numb to the deals with there's so many deals and so many offerings. It just you get a little fatigued with that kind of stuff. But no, I'm not a seller myself. I'm a consumer, so that's where I'm coming from with that. But if you're a seller and a brand, I mean, you gotta make sure you're buttoned up. You gotta make sure your SEO's on and popping, as the kiddies say. You gotta make sure your main hero image is optimized to the rooftops, because especially now, everyone's gonna be basing it off price. For those 2 days, it's based off of price. So if your value prop is not price, put everything you need to say in the title, put everything you need to say in the main hero image within reason. Because for those 2 days, people are really going to be shopping based on price point.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a one-off consumer type scenario. Very different buying mentality, right? It's like the Black Friday mentality when I was a kid and you went to the store and you showed up hours early, right? To be able to get that deal on that TV, whatever it was, a very specific focus. And so
Oh,
I think you make a good point.
it was always a TV. You said maybe it was always everyone on Black Friday. They're always going for TVs. So anytime that happened, I remember the days when I would go and camp out. I think I only did that once when I'd camp out for a TV. And mind you, that deal was for like a 32-inch LCD, $300. Oh my God. Now you can get like a 42-inch LED for like $150. So times are always changing. So
Yeah.
understand that, time is always, things are always changing, but time is of the essence, right? So think
Well,
about,
speaking of time, we got some questions, so let's
oh,
give them
oh,
some time. What do you think?
yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do it. So I got a question here. It looks like it's from Whitney. Whitney, thank you for dropping a question. It said, would you recommend photography or 3D rendering for product images? Now, Don, I definitely feel like this falls into your wheelhouse, man. What do you think?
Yes. So 3D rendering is not really something that's accepted by Amazon unless it's really, 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 really good. And what I mean by that is you don't want a 3D rendering of just a raw 3D file of a widget and just kind of put that up there and say, ta-da, here it is. If you have a rendering and package rendering that looks very natural, by all means go with that if you don't have any other options, but nothing beats a real photo. So I would say that if you can do some photography, I think we just spoke about in my little hack, I don't know if it was in that video or not, JCPenney Portrait Studios. So just go out there. It's literally, I just looked it up, Brandon. I looked it up last night because I was interested.
Mhm.
$15 is the fee to get all the photos taken you want. And then I think it's like $150 to get digital downloads. You cannot beat that. So for anyone that's saying, oh, I can't afford a photographer, I can't afford this, can't afford that, find a JCPenney by you, go and do that. Please don't do an iPhone picture and then drop the background. Unless you're really skilled with an iPhone, don't do that, or editing. I would not do that. But yes, if it's a widget, like here, I have, for example, over here, this is you see that? That's like the MagSafe mount for my laptop that clips on for my phone. Clearly, I'm not using that camera right now with my subpar quality and the Jungle Scout's amazing quality here. We're not going to talk about that. But anyway, something like this, if you were creating it, the rendering might be okay if you might not be able to get to certain angle and all that other kind of stuff, but make sure it's really, really good and realistic.
Yeah, I think a good way to think about this as well, right? You kind of touched on it right now. We work in this virtual world, right, where we're oftentimes not in the same location. And we were talking a bit about this with virtual backgrounds, how it really does make a difference. You can have a really nice virtual background, but it still will sometimes pixelate around you, or things will blur at weird times. Nothing beats a really nicely staged live background like we have in the office. It does make a visual difference. So while you can get around it with some of that 3D rendering, there's always the potential that as a consumer, we're going to look at it and be like, I just don't believe that's real. You know what I mean? And it's going to turn me off of clicking onto it and going forward. So thank you for the question, John. Thanks for the feedback on that. Great answer. Definitely insightful stuff there. Had another question pop up.
I hold on. I gave you the thumbs down because you're rubbing it in that you have an awesome background in the Austin headquarters, and I have this right now. So hopefully the co-founders of Pik Fu see this and we're going to upgrade our stuff soon. But anyway, go ahead. What's the next question?
Oh, no, all good. And I know you connected with the team here to talk about what's some good setup things that you could do to get your remote location sharp like a Jungle Scout. That's why I'm at the office, not at my house, because I'd be in the same boat. I don't have the quality of products they have here at the office. All right, let's jump to another question. So I have another question came in from Wholesome ABG. Can you speak anything about how written copy and bullets, product descriptions, back-end keywords is affecting product category changes? And so, yeah, I definitely think we can both talk into that. John, you got anything you want right off the bat? I have a couple of thoughts for sure.
So I will say that keyword stuffing and just putting keywords in bullet points may get you someplace, but I feel like it's evolving beyond that. After speaking to a lot of our partners and agencies and stuff like that, more of the natural language sounding terms and phrases and words are super important to do. I'm actually doing some sleuth deep dive investigations on this, because as Alexa search and voice search, and now we have Rufus, I'm wondering if it's best practice not to keyword stuff and just put keywords there for the sake of keywords versus still putting the keywords in there, but having them be naturally sounding and the nuance and cadence and how someone speaks, especially if that person's just saying, hey, Alexa, I'm not going to say it because mine's going to go off. Order me this, right? So just understanding that, I would say the landscape's evolving a little bit, but what do you think?
Well, my thought on it is it's real in line with what you said. I mean, traditionally it was just stuff as many in there as you could because you're just trying to get that algorithm to catch you and put you on the right search engine results page, but it didn't always make the best buyer experience. Titles were very convoluted and bullet points and descriptions were it just felt like this mishmash of terms and it was really didn't resonate with me as a buyer, right? Didn't turn me on to the product. And so I think there's definitely a value there because you do have to work in the rules of the game, right? Amazon has their, A9, A10 algorithms that are looking at all these different data points. And so you have to pay attention to that. And their tools like, Jungle Scout's Cobalt and, our other Jungle Scout platforms to do keyword research, right? Because you definitely want to know. But I think you hit on a really important point is you have to write it and present it to the buyer in a way that resonates with them. And so you have to walk this fine line of blending the right mix of keywords with the right verbiage and presentation that satisfies all sides of this equation. And I think that there's a bit of a science and definitely a magic to making all that happen for sure. But I definitely agree. We're moving away from the keyword stuffing feel. And I think this touches on what you and I were talking a bit about in the webinar was using some of the other real estate to do a little of that, the alt text, the back end keywords, to still have those relevant terms, but not put them front facing where it would turn off a consumer or just come across as a poorly crafted listing from a large brand that you would expect more from.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny enough too, like platforms like Walmart, they actually ding you internally for having super long titles. And I'm not saying Walmart's better than Amazon. Obviously, the numbers speak for themselves, at least for now. But that they're the up and comers, even though Walmart's been around forever, but in the space, they're trying to streamline things and take a look at like a Target description, take a look at all this other kind of stuff. No one wants to get slapped in the face with these massive titles, these bullet points that are endless, because if it's just for SEO, in reality, bullet points are for the robots, for SEO. People can read them if it's nice. But when people do read them and do choose to read them, if it's mishmash, like you said, it's not going to resonate and they're going to click off.
Yeah, I agree. And something we didn't even talk about, but you could also consider too as a platform perspective, how something looks on your desktop and reads on your desktop will be very different compared to the mobile browser version, right? Totally. Especially from length of title and the way the bullets will stand out. So when we start talking about that for share of voice, right? If you have that depth of information, where do your consumers buy your product from? Look at the search page, look at how the layout looks for what they're seeing and try to lean into that to be more target specific. And so there's definitely some other unique data points we can drive into with that for sure. But I do have a couple other questions that do tie to this a little bit. So one from Rashid is, what are some common pitfalls to avoid when running A/B tests on Amazon? Right. So this ties very much into what we've been talking about. What are some of the common things that you hear working with clients or that you see continually that are just the blatantly obvious, but yet we keep walking off that cliff, John?
Yeah. So understanding who your competitor is, right? So you may think you know who your competitor is, but often if you're doing that A/B this or that, you may win in that kind of sense, but overall taking a look at the landscape, like when I showed in the webinar, for example, the SERP test and the click test, you have to let the data tell you who your competition is. Numbers alone by how many are sold, it doesn't compare down to features, but seeing who your demographic and who your ICP resonates with as far as, I would click there, I would click there. So I think it goes back to the ABT always be testing to make sure that we're testing the right thing against the right thing. Now, once you understand who your competitors are, at least down to if it's 1, 2, 3, then understanding what can I change about it. Don't change too much and then compare it, because you want to change little by little by little. And there's a reason for that, because if you put too much in the photo and it changes, you're never going to know. If you put 4 more things in the photo and it wins, you're never going to know if it was just the one thing and you don't need the other 3, or if it was just 2 things and not the 4, or whatever it may be. So gradually changing things in your images, in your A+ content, and test them. That's why it's a constant thing. Always be testing, because if you just have dog pee pads, for example, and we showed in that example how we took the data after we drilled down who the competition was, and we changed a couple things. Now that's okay to change that amount. Now if you're looking to reiterate a new different design or anything like that, it's really, really critical that you keep on testing little by little by little.
Yeah, I have to jump on your ABT there, John, with will always be tracking for that same reason. As
You're gonna hear from my
those,
attorney. You're gonna hear from my attorney.
I've already been threatened with that like twice in the last week, but I'm gonna keep saying it. Always be tracking, because as you make those changes, you want to look for the results over time, right? We don't ever want to just make a snap decision, knee-jerk reaction off of a one-off data point or a one day. Oh my God, we had sales were crazy yesterday. Throw everything we got at that product. Well, what if there was a unique circumstance, like a tentpole event, like a Prime Day, and there was a sale, and that's why we sold so many units? We want to look at more trends over time. And we want to look at that almost like you would with advertising, right? We want to see what is happening, how it's trending, and use that data to make better strategic decisions. And as we make those adjustments, and I love the way you said that, common, corporate verbiage you hear is incrementality, move in small increments, but it really does make sense, right? It's like building with Lego blocks, right? You just, each little block one at a time, you end up with something over time, but it takes a little bit of work to get there. But it's the same way. And you also hammered it home. It doesn't end, right? Amazon's changing all the time. Consumer needs are changing all the time. Amazon's regulations and rules are changing all the time. It's always a circle. You just got to keep coming back around and rinse and repeat, because otherwise you will get stagnant, or you will become stale, or you will drop off those search pages. And, if consumers can't find you, they can't buy you. And we talk about that a lot. So keep those things in mind.
Building with Legos, not Duplos. Don't be building with Duplos. Those things are big, and it only takes a couple pieces to get high. I have children. I know what Duplos are. Just saying.
I had a couple other questions. We'll move away from Legos for a minute. One from my guy Rolando was asking, any last minute tips to prep for Prime Day? Any last minute tips for your side? It's kind of late in the game for advertising adjustments and things in some cases.
No, it's not. No, stop telling people it's too late. It's never too late. I think that's
argue with me about it. Tell me why.
I think that's a 3 Days Grace song. It's not too late.
It's not too late. So, I actually agree. It's not too late. I just wanted to see if I could get a rise out of you. You get so triggered for me. I love it.
Oh, clickbait. I love it. So, you could change your main hero image right now. Watching this, you could change your main hero image before we're even done with this call. You can change your main hero image. You can change your bullet points. You can change your title. You can change your advertising assets. Nothing is set in stone. This is not biblical times. Noah's out there and his ark. Things can be pivoted. Things can be changed at any given drop of hat. What can't be changed is inventory. Like, you missed the boat on that. If you don't have inventory in for Prime Day, well, see you next time. Because that's one big thing you can't change. So focus on the things that you can change. You can change your creative assets. You can change your advertising assets. You can make sure you're buttoned up with alt text, brand story module. You can make sure all this stuff is done. But the biggest thing to do for Prime Day, I urge you, if you're watching this and listening, your main hero image, that's where it starts. People window shop, and they basically, your windows are going to be your main hero image. It's like when they're walking down the street. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, they say this. Let me walk inside and see what else is in the store. To give an old-timey perspective, because I'm old. But understanding that, why am I going to click on this image? And then, especially if people are driven down or focusing on price and Prime Day, yeah, you could run coupons. It might not be too late to run that. I'm not too sure. But really focus on what you can control and see how your image stands out against your competition. I beg of you, because you're going to be kicking yourself in the rumperoni if you do not optimize your main hero image and get those clicks. After they click, it's really up to the product detail page and your A+ and all that stuff to convert. And then once they add to the cart, fingers crossed that they keep on rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. And have good expectations, right? If you go in and you change all of your text and your titles and things, that's great. But realize too that Amazon's algorithm is not going to recognize that change right now and move you to a different search engine results page instantly. That stuff takes time because the algorithm trends over time and makes adjustments. But don't let that deter you from trying to lean into what you can do, right? Maybe you don't quite get the traction you needed off of some of your adjustments because we are kind of close to Prime Day. Doesn't mean you still shouldn't try. Doesn't mean you shouldn't just throw a shot up there and see how it goes. So definitely lean into it. Think outside the box too, right? What's something you haven't tried before, right? What's a different way to present your brand, as John was talking about, getting them into your product display page, narrating that story, pressing those value points and pushing those emotions and pain buttons. What can you do to really meet your consumer where they are? And I think you say that over and over. How do you meet them where they are?
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple other questions. John, this one was for you, from Gerline. What was the name of the photography company that you were mentioning earlier? Where was
Oh,
you were listening?
it's Aspinall Photography Incorporated.
All right.
We handle all photography. I'm just kidding. No, it's
No, I'm
JC.
laughing at my video froze, and I was like, "Why am I just looking down at the screen still?" Sorry,
Oh
I
no,
had to
no,
turn it off and on again. Tech
it's
issues, you know how that goes.
JC Penney's JC Penney portraits. I don't know if everyone has a JC Penney's by them. I live in New York City. I guess I'm blessed that there's a JC Penney here. But Sears, if they're still in existence, or any place near you that does, family Christmas photos, and you go to the place and stuff like that. Maybe there might be some more mom and pop places that do that if that's near you. But definitely check it out and see. I just reference JC Penney because I'm fully endorsed and backed and sponsored by them. So it's a big corporate rigmarole. I'm kidding. No, but it's just the easiest value prop that you can do, because less than $200 and you're able to get some pro photos.
Yeah, and there you can't say enough for that. I mean, while our phones are great, your iPhone can take an amazing picture, and if you're really great with editing, you can do a lot with that. It still says something about the quality of photography. The equipment does make a difference, right? We've talked about, cheap isn't good and good isn't cheap in some cases, but this is a great blend of affordable pricing to get that step up quality. So
Yeah.
definitely lean into that
But
if
don't
and
tell
when it makes
people, don't
sense.
keep that a secret. If you're watching this, don't gatekeep that, please. Please, out of anything you could gatekeep that, because you don't want them shutting that down and saying you can't bring products in there, it's just for people and stuff like that. Whatever. But keep that to yourself. That's between me, you, and Brandon and Jungle Scout and Pik Fu and the internet. Just keep that all between us.
Anyone that happens to be watching on YouTube or LinkedIn, but we
Yeah,
just keep
just
it amongst. You got to be in the in, right? If you know, you know.
yeah.
All right, I had another couple questions. Just we'll bring this in, and also got to thank you, John, for answering that from Gerline. So a couple other just quick ones from Natalie Evans. How much do videos affect ranking on Amazon? So in your experience, right, from a video perspective, right, kind of digital visual content really falls some in your wheelhouse. What have you seen with that could help Natalie out for some context? And I think maybe what we're driving into is what's the value there, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be pricey to put it all together. What's the ROI? Is it worth? Is it just the juice worth the squeeze? I'm thinking is what I feel like that question is really asking.
Yeah, so video technically doesn't help ranking. What video would do would help conversion, and then conversion mean more sales, and sales helps ranking. So directly, video really doesn't affect rank per se. Um, I'm probably the worst person to ask this question to, because I know if I'm going on Amazon and I'm buying mosquito spray or lawn care products on Amazon, and it's under 30 or 40 bucks. I'm looking at the image, I like the price, I click, and I'm out. I'm not looking at the video. Now, that's not to say video is not important. I consume lots of video content here on YouTube, on LinkedIn, TikTok is a great example. So I think leveraging video the right way. Yes, you should have video in your A plus content if you have premium A plus. Don't expect millions of people to go there and see. Don't expect that video has to have all the information and then the rest of your listing has nothing, because then what happens if someone doesn't click on the video? So I do think video is powerful and important to have for people shopping on Amazon, but video is even more important on outside of Amazon bringing in the business, right? So if you have a brand and have a TikTok account and have TikTok influencers do video where people are seeing it on TikTok and then going to Amazon to purchase, that's a more powerful way, in my opinion, to be using video.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, John, with off Amazon as a lead driver to
Yeah.
Amazon with video. Because back to our point, right? Meet the consumer where they are. I don't go to Amazon to shop to look at videos. I go to other platforms, like you mentioned, TikTok or Instagram, or for us older folks, maybe even Facebook. I know. But you look for those videos, and that's where it catches your attention, drives you to Amazon. Now, there can be value in some sponsor positioning if you're talking about like search engine results page and you want to have a sponsored video embedded there because it's trying to drive people to maybe your brand store and it's part of your strategy to capture them in Amazon. But to John's point, it's just one piece of of the puzzle, right? And there will be some people that it captures, but it can't be the only thing you bank on. And it has to be one part of a much bigger picture and strategy that all lead toward that same end result, right? Get them to click on your listing, then more importantly, get them to convert and add to their cart and finish the purchase. And all those things have to be pulling in the same direction. So it's another really good lever, but you want to use it really tactically.
Yeah. Video on TikTok is a big, think about it like this. Like I went on TikTok and I was looking for a koozie for just cans and bottles and stuff like that. And I just get hit with Frost Buddy. Frost Buddy, it dominates on TikTok. And yeah, I bought it through TikTok shop, but they also have Amazon. So if someone's not comfortable buying through TikTok shop, for example, they're going to see it on TikTok. And you can see that's the trend because a lot of skincare supplements, they'll even put badges on their in post edits on their product hero images, viral on TikTok, as seen on TikTok. So people are coming from TikTok.
That's become the new as seen on TV from way back
Yeah,
in the
as
day.
seen on
Yeah,
TikTok.
that's
Yeah.
as seen on TikTok. Yeah, for sure. I love it. All right. Couple other questions rolled in. Let's see. I had one from Jake. There's so many metrics out there. Why is share of voice better than some of those other metrics? So let me kind of jump on that one first. Let's talk about how we'll define share of voice, just so we're all speaking the same language, right? Share of voice, we want to define it as our value on the search engine results page, right? We'll often call it SERP, insert Amazon terminology. And a way to look at that is on the search page, on page one especially, right? Being the most relevant shopping positions, you could say, where consumers are going to be clicking in and converting. And if you want to be invisible in Amazon, be on page two, right? It's much like the old Google SEO kind of mentality. So if you're on page one, what's our value on the page? So that's what we're talking about with share of voice. And there's a number of different positions that lead into that, right? From sponsored positions that you're paying for to organic positions, which are much better ROI. But how much do we own? And there's different levels of looking at that. As a brand, how much does a brand own of the page? How much is a certain ASIN from that brand worth on the page? And we're talking about a top-down perspective, right? Who's in the first position, second, third, and so on. Because consumers, as consumers, a lot of times we add value to that. If you're in the first position in our mind, that just says, well, you must be the best product I should look at because you're in the top left corner, you're the first thing front and center. That may or may not have some value. There might be some validity to that, but there also could just be a really well put together listing or really great sponsored positioning, and there's ad dollars driving it. And so there's other factors. But when we talk about share of voice, we want to think of that as a brand share of search page or their market share of that search page. And oftentimes those most relevant keywords that the consumers are leaning on to find the products do tie very directly to brand performance, market share trends, driving products in a certain market. And there's a real big correlation there. So while there are a lot of metrics around keywords in general, and we talk about how valuable they are, and they really, really are, share of voice, in my opinion, right? So caveat that, in my opinion, is one of the most, if not the most, and oh, sorry, man, my video keeps freezing on me. I see how it is. I'm gonna have to go talk to this video team here. They're in the background, like waving me down. Sorry. So in my humble opinion, share of voice is probably the most important keyword metric to focus on if you know how to leverage it well with your analysis, because it can give you such insightful directional information and performance over time. I couldn't lean into it enough. But John, you deal a lot with the search engine results page. We talk about, positioning on it all the time, your image, how you're showing up. What do you add value with kind of that share of voice mentality? How does that, kind of stand for you and kind of how you approach it?
If you think I'm going to give a better answer than what you just gave on share of voice, you're sadly mistaken. No. So that was really good, right? So for me, it all comes down to how much of the SERP or search engine result page is inundated with ads, advertising, positioning for that, what the main image looks like, what the colorway is, right? So we talked about melatonin gummies before, where everything is a sea of purple. How do you stand it? I don't care. I care, but I don't care what the numbers say. If you're a new brand that's coming out and the top dog and everyone else is purple, you can't just go into it with a purple bottle of melatonin gummies. You're going to be lost in the sea. So it's important to see overall holistically where you land on the SERP and what else everything kind of looks like. But then really, really understanding, is this viable? Is this something to continue on going with or not? But yeah, visually from that perspective, something like Pik Fu is going to help you understand where you stand on the SERP, because share of voice and all those metrics are important. But especially for new brands that are breaking into it, if you think, oh, this guy's number one and everyone else is looking like this, well, I'm just going to come in at a little bit of a cheaper price and knock them off number one. No, you're not. You have to have something new, something innovative, something different. So there's a lot that comes into it, but like defensive, offensive, PPC targeting, right? Are you keeping that voice share or share of voice with your product page? If you have 3,000 ASINs and I land on your product detail page, but I'm seeing advertisements for other products and not yours, that's not a defensive tactic, right? Versus offensive PPC tactics, you're targeting other ASINs. So there's lots of stuff you can be doing.
Yeah, definitely agree. And that can definitely take us down a lot of really neat conversations, which would I'd be happy to dive into. But I'm trying to be cognizant of our time and your time on the call. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
But there was a couple other questions I wanted to dive into just before we wrap up. So let's see. From Fire Tree Distributions, any tips to improve the likelihood of a customer leaving a review on products to help understand why the product is returned, or for feedback if they didn't like the product? So I know on our side, Jungle Scout and one of our flagship platforms has a review automation tool, which I'm sure you've heard our team talk about a lot before. Lenny, Jake, Greg Mercer, everybody is a big fan of review automation. It's a huge value because it sets up that fire and forget type of, they purchase a product, it automatically asks for a review, sends them an email X amount of time after the product is delivered, and it just encourages them to leave a review. What's great about it is you don't have to manually do any of that. It's going to go to every purchase that's made so that you just get, it's more of a numbers game. If I throw out enough, I will get some back.
Mhm.
One thing about that is as a product starts to get reviews, it's funny, it's very cyclical. It will also generate more reviews because consumers were very driven by that. We want to know, what did you like? What didn't you like? And then your question leads into a deeper dive of how do I take that and analyze that, improve my product, improve my listings, maybe launch variations based off of the feedback I'm getting. So it can lead to a lot of really positive, insightful impact in your business, but you have to get it first. And so the first thing is you have to do is you have to ask for it, right? And you have to ask for it in a way that's not pushy, that people are willing to say, yeah, I've got a second to give you my thoughts on that. And honestly, if someone doesn't like a product, they're much more likely to give it a review, unfortunately, because if we love something, we'll tell one or two people about it. If we don't like it, we'll tell as many people as we can why we didn't like it. Here's my example, right? Have you ever been with somebody to take a sip of this? They go, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Try it. No, I'm good. I totally take your review at face value. We're good.
But was their question more of, how do I know why why they didn't like it before it gets returned? Was that kind of the question, or was it?
No, I was just looking for tips any tips to improve the customer engaging in a review in general.
Because a lot of people want to do that too, where they're like, oh, I want to know why my product sucks before I get hit with a slew of reviews. But this way I can kind of pivot or fix it before it's too late. And that's the hard thing, right? That's when testing in Pik Fu and testing comes to, you understand what customer really wants, what they need, how they like it. It's like Burger King, how you want it, your way, right away, whatever.
Sure.
So yeah, it's definitely to mitigate and abate any sort of negative feedback about your product per se. Understand what your consumers want and what really affects them, and then build your product around that.
Yeah, awesome. All right, another question. Let's see. Also from Natalie, she'd asked us a question earlier. What would you say Amazon is choosing as the most important factors to rank products? Is it the title? We find the first part of the title is what Amazon picks up on first.
Well, yeah, I mean the title, bullet points, from what Amazon's talking about of what they're finding. Well, she's kind of asking me to diagnose the A9 algorithm for you openly on the
I
internet.
was
I
waiting
don't.
for your answer because I was like, man, if he has this figured out, I'm all ears.
Yeah, it's a combination that they don't tell anyone about, obviously, but it's between sales volume, CTR, conversion rate, feedback score, relevancy, inventory, how much inventory you have. So from a contextual standpoint, like if we're looking at just the content that's written, if we're talking about that, you want to make sure. I think the title is the number one thing for the written of what's contributing to the A9 algorithm. The title is the first thing. And then you have the bullet points, the PDP, the description, the alt text, but the title is in my opinion the first thing that I can imagine that they would kind of enter into the A9 algorithm.
Yeah, because from the consumer seat, right, we look at image, then title, then price. But from the algorithm perspective, it's looking for text and content. So you're probably skipping the image piece of it. You have an image, check, yes.
Yeah.
Now what's the title? And that's back to a little bit what we talked about earlier, right? That right blend of valuable keywords based upon how you define value, whether it's consumer drive, relevancy to your product, whatever that is part of that blending into a well-written piece of content that will catch the eye, differentiate you from the competition, get someone to want to click in and say, tell me more kind of mentality. But you have to get that right blend, because if you don't have the right keywords at all, you're not going to be on the right search pages. It doesn't matter how great or flowery your content was. If you're not visible, you can't buy you. So you've got to walk that fine line.
At least for now, because Amazon AI is changing every single day. And if you just test it and throw like an image into Claude or ChatGPT that has text on it, and you just say, what is this an image of? AI can read all the text on images as is. So it's only a matter of time before Amazon starts to be able to use AI internally to read text on images and starting to use that as a contribution for SEO. If they're not doing it now and they don't tell us, I don't know.
Well, I think you nailed it. It changes, and it changes fast. And AI is a fantastic tool, and as we're all leveraging it more effectively, that's great. But we're not all leveraging it effectively yet, so we still got a little ways to go. But definitely keep an eye on that. And I know you post and talk about it a lot. Jungle Scout, we post and talk about it a lot as well. It's cutting edge and amazing and scary all at the same time, because it is so impactful, and it's
fun. It's fun.
I hate to say game changer as a word, because it sounds so corporatized nowadays, but it really is going to be impactful for sure.
Well, here's what you do. Take the word game changer, throw it into ChatGPT. So give me 5 versions of this,
better versions of
that doesn't sound too corporate-y. And yeah, there you go.
There we go. I'm gonna go do that later. I'm gonna run that test and check it out and see what it comes up with. All right. I had another question that popped in from Mr. Yusuf. What are the recent strategies to rank newly launched products on Amazon, and why it's being tough to rank on Amazon for newly launched products? A little bit of a double sentence there.
So it's not tough depending on what category you're going in. So there needs to be some more context with that, right? So if you're starting to sell, I don't know, let's say melatonin gummies, that's supplements overall is a very hard category to crack into, because there's so many people. So I think you need to take a step back and see, what am I getting into? What category, what product? Using a tool like Jungle Scout to see, competition, relevancy. What are the things that are in the tool as far as potential? I think potential is one of them too, right? Like for the breakdown.
It breaks it down in a number of different ways. We've got a number of tools that look into it, but yes, you kind of hit on a lot of them. Relevancy, brands in market, kind of size of the prize, growth year over year, new brands entering or leaving, products being launched. So you can see all these trend metrics and start to see how competitive the space is. There's some formulas we can run to let you know Is it a very competitive space? To your point, like supplements, maybe there's a lot of people selling. It's maybe hard to just break into the market.
Yeah.
It's not impossible, but you have to be much more targeted and strategic, and you got to be very tactical in how you go about doing it.
Do I have something else random over here? No, I don't. But imagine, if you will. So, okay, here's a perfect example. This is a battery pack thing that goes on the back of my son's Xbox controller that allows you to charge it through a USB-C or on a charging dock. If you were to create something changing like this, where it's like different in the market, you don't got to worry about product launch. You're going to already get killer sales because there's no competition out there. But when you're talking about a new product launch against competition, like a space that has a lot of competition, that honeymoon period is real. Those first 30 days on Amazon, they're going to artificially kind of boost you a little bit. So I've seen a lot of sellers and brands on the agency side of things when I was working with agencies, like, oh my God, I was killing it on Amazon. And the next month it was like, it just tanked. Well, yeah, they're giving you that kind of honeymoon period, that little boost, here you go, here's a little apple. But if you're not doing best practices, if you're not combing your listing and making sure your image is buttoned up, why are you better than the competition? How could you expect to beat the competition that's out there and get more sales if you're not clearly explaining in your marketing and your assets and your creatives why you're better? What is the pain, us versus them? Just being cheaper doesn't matter. I've spoken to people many, many times over where I said, you currently have this solution. If I was able to give you a cheaper version of this, exactly the same thing, but a cheaper version, would you do it? They'd say no, because I've already had this integrated in my life. It's already set up. My USB hub's already. If it does the exact same thing and it's cheaper, why am I going to replace it? It's got to be something better. So if you see a lot of stuff that's out there and you're just going to come in on price, you're going to lose. But if you're talking about the pain and why you're better, why you're a need versus a want, then you're going to win.
Yeah, and I think John, what's great, like on the Jungle Scout side of that, is we've always been very strong in product research, right? That's really kind of how we entered the market. Everyone thought of Jungle Scout as you go to Jungle Scout for product research, and we definitely have a lot of tools to do that. But more than that, especially in like our Cobalt platform for enterprise businesses, just identifying the products that are driving market so that you can go and look at that and say, do we have the ability to manufacture a similar product? And then to your point, how would we differentiate it? How would we make it that one incremental step better so that we are not the other product? We are unique or different.
Yeah.
But we can find those trends and find those places to start digging deeper in the data. And that's what, why data is so important, because you don't want to make those just, well, we feel like this will sell type of decisions. You want to be able to say, this is what we see. This is what the market tells us. This is what consumers are telling us with their trends. Now let's dig there and be more tactical with what we're going to do. So we don't just launch a product, we launch the right product at the right time to the right consumer to capture all of those factors that really will drive it forward.
It's like if you want to invest in stocks in the stock market and you have $100,000 to invest and you don't open up one website, one app, one piece of data about why a stock is up, down, left, right, diagonal, and you just say, hey, I want to buy $100,000 of Disney stock. I like Disney. I think it's going to do well. I mean, Disney's amazing, not to knock Disney, but I'm just making a point where you can't go based off of what you think or what you feel. You have to be data driven with everything when it comes to your keywords, comes to your assets, your images, your SEO strategy, your meta tag, all that kind of stuff has to be data driven.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why you come to talk to folks like us, right? Because we're looking at the information, trying to find you those answers. All right, John, we got the last couple questions here.
Yeah.
What's that?
Is that a bunch of smarty pants over here?
I'll let you can own that one. I'll just be here. All right. So a couple of last questions that we had come in. Let's see. Also from Annabelle, would you wait for a high season to launch a product or simply launch when you're ready?
So my old boss at my Amazon guy, Stephen Pope, had an old adage of, would ask people, when is the best time to launch a product? And today is the best time to launch a product, right? So don't wait for, I think the time is right. Because think about it like now, like people are like, I want to capitalize on Prime Day. You have to be planning that out for months with inventory, logistics, products, getting it in. So if you're doing a new product launch, it's a lot. You can't look at it from seasonality because you're not gonna be able to time it right unless it's a very seasonal product. So if you're looking to do something that's like a Halloween mask or a Halloween decoration, which I would advise from doing, you want to do something really that's evergreen all the time. But if you're looking to capitalize on the ebbs and flows, just get going and use the data to get started right away. Don't wait for the perfect time, because there is not going to be a perfect time because there's always ebbs and flows. There's always going to be, right now we're in June, almost July, right? July, it's going to be summer, 4th of July, this, and then toward the tail end of July, everything is back to school. You would think back to school is more in September, but it's not. Take a look at like your retail stores, right? When you go into, like right now, I went to a retail store. I went to Hobby Lobby with my wife. They already have Halloween decorations and fall stuff and pumpkins and harvest stuff. It's
Yeah,
barely the summer, you
it's
know?
almost ridiculous how far ahead they are. But they're a great example of that. Is they're not focused on the season they're in. They've got those products; those were already ready. They are laying the groundwork for the next thing, and they're
Yep.
always rolling it forward. I think a good way to think about this as well is if you tried to wait to just what you considered peak season, you may, if that was your plan, there's always the potential that you're behind the window. Maybe you didn't launch at the right
Mhm.
time and you missed that crest on that wave. If you launch today and you're in market, well, you're already in market and you can lay the groundwork to be positioned well when that peak
Yeah.
season hits because you're already there. And to John's point, you already have data. You'll have a bit better understanding who my consumer is. Am I meeting them the right way? Are my listings set up to get the click through, to get the conversion? Because I've been able to test that. I wouldn't want to launch a product and then try to test variations of it right during the peak of a season where it's probably super stressful anyway. You want to lay all that out leaning into it ahead of time. So timing is definitely important. But if you're going to not take action versus take action, the recommendation is usually it's better to do something than to do nothing and then to continue to pivot and work on that as you go.
I think that was the old slogan from Domino's back in the 90s. It was like something for nothing if you call Domino's. You can fact check that. I don't know.
I feel like you made that up, but I
I
also feel like Domino's could totally throw us some pizza and I would say it again. That's all I'm saying.
uh yeah, please.
Well, I know you're in New York, so pizza is a big thing for you. So Domino's might not be the
No,
top tier pizza, but
no, 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 no. Sometimes it's 2 a.m. and the pizzeria is closed and I want some Domino's, so that's fine.
yeah, awesome. All right, last question from Natalie, because Natalie, appreciate your all your questions. Thank you so much for shooting them in. We really love that. I hope you don't mind. I have one more question. What do you find works better, a color variation or separate listings?
So my thing to that would be, what do you prefer better, more money or less money? I'm being facetious, but you don't want to, if you have a product, and I think what she's saying is if she has a product and wants to do a different color of it versus as a variation versus having another color as a standalone. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's what I took out of the question. So let's say she's got a product and she's looking at launching a variation color of it. And her question was, is it better to embed it like a child ASIN variation kind of setup or as a separate listing? And
So
so,
I
yeah, you were
yeah,
definitely
I
going down the
think
right road from how it was presented, I believe.
yeah. So I think actually based on the terms of Amazon's guidelines, I don't think you could have a separate ASIN for a separate color as a separate page. I think if it's the same item, and I don't even know why you would do that anyway. You want to have, if you have a product with different color variations, you want them all on the same page because if I don't like black, I'm going to see that you have pink, blue, green, orange, yellow, and I'm able to right from there click and add to cart and convert. The other thing is if you have a black color, which is your flagship one that you've had for eons and you've done great sales on it. If you create a purple and a blue one and you create it on its own separate thing, it's not going to carry the weight of the SEO, the BSR, the reviews, anything like that with it. It's like starting from scratch. Versus if you pick a parentage, which is a parent-child, that's going to give that some weight. So what you're going to be able to, it's going to be able to be seen more, and the rank is going to be a lot higher because it's tied to the original one. So best practice is, yeah, don't create a separate listing for that unless your goal is to just give Amazon money as a donation for free, like charity. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think a good way to think about it as well is put yourself in the seat of the consumer, right? What's easier? If I'm already on your listing and I can just click through different colors on the page I'm on, Or do I have to go search for the other listing if I even know there's another listing available? And so one of the things we always talk about, how do I make it easy, right? I want to make it easy for you to buy my product. I want to make it easy for you I want to make it easy for you to click on me. I want to make it easy for you to say, oh, I really need that. Add it to my cart. This is one of those ways that just makes it easier for a consumer. So put yourself, I always say that, or we joke about that whenever we say like, well, should I do it or shouldn't I do it? Put yourself in the consumer seat.
Yeah.
Look at it from that point of view and then reassess, should I do it or shouldn't I do it? From how's it going to impact your buyer? What are they going to see, feel, experience with this?
It's like the Eagles song. You remember, Brendan? You're a fan of the Eagles
I am, yeah.
yeah.
And I saw my video leaving me a funny face there. So, yep, big fan of the Eagles.
Make it easy. I'm kidding. It's take it
make
easy.
it easy.
But
I think it was take it easy. Glenn Fry might not appreciate you changing his song.
It's well, Joe Walsh can relax too. But I'm making a joke, but it's take it easy. But yeah, make it easy. Follow like what the Eagles would say if they were to come up with a new song in 2024 about Amazon e-commerce, as they should. But yeah, make it super simple. Don't put any friction or barriers between the customer and adding it to the cart.
Yeah. Well, I know we've kept you guys pretty long. We went really long on our Q&A, which was awesome. And there was probably still some more questions that have popped in since I navigated away from that screen. And I apologize if we didn't get to all your questions or if they got kind of lost in the shuffle. But we'll try to follow up with you in the comments. Jungle Scout will jump in and answer some of those questions as well. And John can always weigh in on some of those also. But thank you for hanging out with us, John. Thank you so much for coming down and visiting and taking time to talk with all these folks about this with myself and the Jungle Scout crew. So we really appreciated you hanging out with us. So look forward to doing it again sometime.
Yeah,
we'll bring you back down and do more barbecue. It'll be good.
It was delicious. But I want to say, anyone that's watching this, I don't know if your team or our team can put it out there. If you like what we were talking about with Pik Fu and testing, if you want to get your hands around some Pik Fu credits and you're not sure and you're a little gun shy, you're a little cowboy gun shy, Texas. Anyway, just email me or connect with me on LinkedIn. Say that you saw the webinar with Jungle Scout, and I'm happy to throw you some free credits to get you hooked on the foo, as we call it.
Hooked on the boo. I love it. Yeah, be sure to reach out, connect with John, connect with myself for questions. If you want more information around some of the data that we've talked about from the Jungle Scout side of things, happy to have a conversation with your brand or your business or agency to talk a bit more about what that looks like. Honestly, it probably wouldn't be me. There's other folks that handle that conversation, but I would be happy to talk with you as well. So reach out, connect with us, let us know. You can find this on YouTube. There will be, the link there that we'll be able to have for you to use as well. There's also links in there to be able to book some time with Jungle Scout if you want that kind of conversation. And so happy to connect with everybody after the fact. So again, thank you guys and ladies and folks for all hanging out with us. Appreciate all the questions. John, appreciate all the amazing insight that you always bring, and then the fun banter that we have back and forth. So we're going to bring this in for a landing, and we'll see you guys all again real soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.